Good morning, everyone. Good Sabbath to you all. This is Bill coming to you from the Biblical Lifestyle Center in Texarkana, Texas. It is so good to be with you this day. Thank you for allowing me to share this time on the Holy One's precious Sabbath with you, to indulge in the blessing and the holiness of this day, to receive hopefully a download from heaven, to cleanse our minds and hearts of the stress, the difficulties, the drama, the trauma of ordinary life, of the 6-day work week, and to instead engage in, indulge in, enter into the shalom of the Holy One. Shabbat shalom to you all. Today we are going to explore the Torah again. What a precious gift it is to us that the Creator of the universe would give us his instruction manual as to what life on earth in his eyes is supposed to look like. He knows man. He knows the creation. He knows the challenges and the trials that we experience here. And he has graciously given us his words of instruction, his manual, his life code or life source that allows us to navigate through the difficult areas of this life, the challenges that we face relationally, emotionally, internally, externally, governmentally, in every facet of life, religiously, spiritually, politically, all the realms of life will have challenges, and he knows that. And he has given us his instruction book, his instruction manual, a love letter, as it were, to tell us this is the way. Walk in it. Follow my patterns. Follow my rhythms, and you will be there. Well, this is a day that's all about rhythms. It's all about the difference between the gentle, rhythmic flow of the oceans as the Holy One designed them, and the rogue wave that leads to death that the world has adopted in the place of the gentle flowing of the ocean's waves. So we are in Parshot Acharei, which is Leviticus 16:1 through the end of 18, and then through also picking up today Parsha Kedoshim. The central theme of Torah is beginning with chapter 19, verse 1 of Leviticus, and going all the way through chapter 20, verse 27. That's chapters 19 and 20, as it were, of the book of Vayikra, the third book of the Torah, often known in the world today as Leviticus. Today, I give the subtitle of our little drash, our little conversation we're having in my cheder, or a little room of study, I give the name, the Kippur Kedusha factor. The Kippur Kedusha factor. If you understand, we're going to talk about two very related but seemingly different concepts of life. The Holy One's going to try to get us in rhythm of trough and wave. Trough and wave. If you understand that, now you can understand Kippur being the trough and Kedusha being the wave. Behind every trough comes a wave. Behind every wave comes a trough. Kippur and Kedusha are therefore inseparable. Covering, atonement, as it's reads strangely enough in English. What an interesting way. Greek mindsets and Western thought always tries to go to the theological, the theoretical, the abstract. Hebrew always says, no. This is very, very practical and very, very real. See the pictures, see the images, understand the imagery, but also understand the energy that comes with the things the Holy One is talking about. So it's not atonement in some theoretical, theological sense we'll be talking about. It's Kippur. It's the idea of covering, of clothing and garments, in preparing and enabling and empowering through the Kippur. And then, as that happens in the trough, in the lowest place of our lives, when we become mostly in need of and mostly dependent upon covering, then he raises us up to flow in the Kedusha, the holiness, as the English Western world likes to call it, again, an abstract theological concept, when it's really supposed to be about Kedusha. It's about energy flowing from heaven. It's what happens when you respond to the covering, the kippur that has taken place in your trough time, and you've now begun to flow in the heavenly energy, that you live a resurrection style life, a post-resurrection life, a remnant style life. You have faced death. You have faced the deepest, darkest times. You have faced lack. You have faced self-denial. And now you're rising up in the form of resurrection life. The life. What should you do? How should you live? Considering what has happened, what the grace of the Holy One has done for you. What should be the nature of your life? What should be the elements, the consistency of your life? What should be the practical impact of your life? That's what we're talking about. The Kippur Kedusha relationship, the Kippur Kedusha factor. And I subtitled that subtitle, I call it Embracing Our Civic and Cosmic Responsibility to restore harmony to humanity and to creation. Let me repeat that for you. Embracing our civic and cosmic responsibility. It's both civic in the nature of the times that we live and the people we live around, and cosmic in regard to the environment we live in, the universe as the creator and created it. Embracing our civic and cosmic responsibility to restore harmony to humanity and creation. Remember, I spoke to you, beloved, about the waves, about the ocean, about the gently flowing ocean waves. And then I spoke to you, I mentioned to you a rogue wave, a sense of something happened out of the unexpected that goes the opposite way, that connects a bunch of different subliminal, hidden swells, and they come together and form a great rogue wave that leads to death, that interrupts the natural harmony, the natural gentle flowing of the ocean, and begins to sweep over everything and take it out and result in its death. Mot, that's death, as we call it in English. But again, it's not a abstract concept. Mot is be caught up in this wave, this rogue wave that leads to death, that is against the gentle flow of the kingdom and the ways. So it's our day to embrace our civic and cosmic responsibility to restore harmony to humanity and creation. There's enough people who are stirring the wave, the rogue wave of death, though it's our time to become the opposite, to stand in counterculture, to begin to restore harmony to creation and to humanity as a species. In order to really get the most out of Parsha Acharei and Kedoshim, which are sort of contrasting the ways of the wave of death is Acharei, the ways of the swell, the great swelling wave of Kedusha is in Parsha Kedoshim. So we got 2 chapters for one and 2 chapters for the other. They offset each other. But to get the fullness of what this means, we got to put it in context. So I encourage you to think with me about it. Just go back to the general things, the overriding theme of the Torah. I've already told you it's the instruction manual for life on earth, the creator of the universe who designed life and designed humanity and designed the earth and designed the universe has an instruction manual as to how humanity is to behave and handle it and navigate it. Now there's 2 basic themes, 2 overriding themes of the Torah, of the Holy One's instruction manual for life. The first theme, the most critical theme, the one that out of which everything else flows, is the rule and reign of God over all created things. God as creator doing creator things, doing maintainer, sustainer things, the rule and reign of God over all created things. This is the first premise, the first element of Torah. If you don't understand this, we won't be able to flow and make sense of the rest of it. God is the creator, the Elohim, the Yod He Vav He. He is the creator of the universe, and he is invested in its maintenance and its control. So the rule and reign of God over all created things, because Torah wants us to know. Remember, keep in context at all times that the Creator is nothing less than the sovereign Lord, ecosystem manager of this universe and every element of it. We are therefore to accept his will as the ultimate and most powerful, as well as the most beneficial force that ever will exist. We are to accept his will, because he is sovereign, because he is the ecosystem manager, because he is invested, and he knows he's wise. We accept his will not our will, as the ultimate and most powerful, most beneficial force that will ever exist. That's the first theme of Torah. That is sort of out of which everything else grows. Out of that, everything else grows. Now, I'm going to get to the second theme. We're not going to go much further than this in grand overall writing themes, but the second theme is equally important for today's discussion. If we're going to understand Parshat Acharei and Parsha Kedoshim, if we're going to understand the two contrasting ways of the trough of the wave, the rogue wave of death, and the swell of the great wave, the flowing rhythmic wave of life and holiness, then we need to understand this secondary theme. And after the idea of the rule and reign of God over all created things and his will being the most perfect way things could be done, the secondary theme is that he has a plan. He has set up an order, a structure. He has set up a rhythm and a whole tone frequency that is sourced in his brilliant mind and is sourced in his wonderful, loving, caring Creator's heart. And that plan, that created order, that structure, that frequency, sourced in heaven, can be connected with by mankind. Mankind can connect with it, can interface with it, can begin to flow in it. And there is a group of people, the seed of Avraham, those who take on the Avrahamic character, the good tree that produces good fruit. These people must access. And then ultimately all people must access through the model and the example provided to them through the seed of Abraham, must access and cooperate with to bring harmony to the state of thriving to the earth. Bring harmony and a state of thriving to the earth and its species. That's the idea. If we can connect with the plan, connect with the order, get in rhythm, get back in harmony, back in full tone frequency with that plan that's sourced in heaven, and begin to access and cooperate with it, and begin to see the world as an opportunity, every situation, every circumstance we face, every challenge we face, as a challenge to bring harmony to and a state of thriving in the earth and all its species and its people. Now, it's, the overriding themes of Torah in general. We can remind ourselves that this is what's going on. He is trying to connect us with the harmonious ways, the ways of bringing harmony, life, and peace to the world, as opposed to creating and cooperating with the wave that carries out to death, the rogue wave that leads to death. Now he's going to get to the specific theme of this book, of the Sefer, the middle Sefer, the middle book of Torah, the third book, Vayikra, again called Leviticus by the Western world for whatever reason. Now, the theme of the current book, this theme of Vayikra, is very clearly stated throughout the book, multiple times. The call of the bridegroom king to his bride people, the call of the Creator to his Avrahamic seed people. And here's the call: be holy as I am holy. Now, that is not some commandment that puts you in a strange world. What it is an empowerment to catch the wave, to get out of the trough and catch the wave of holiness, the wave of Kedusha, the wave of energy from heaven that gets us in rhythm with the great, gentle, flowing nature of what creation was designed to be. Be Kadosh, be Kadosh, be Kedoshim, be plural, many of you be this way, as I am holy. That's the theme of this book. So he's hitting the main theme of he is the sovereign king of the universe, and he is the master ecosystem manager, and the fact that he's creating a people out of the seed of Abraham to be the models that will cause all people to re-establish that harmony, to reconnect with that harmony in his plan of order and structure and peace and life. But the specifics are we must become engaged with this holiness factor. The holiness factor, again, we start with Acharei, which is after the death, after the wave hits us, after the rogue wave hits us, we begin to be carried away by its dying and its death and its destruction, its destabilization. That's what happens when a wave hits you. You get destabilized, and you begin to lose your balance, and you begin to lose your ability to go the right way, and it takes you out like a riptide out to your death. That's what the wave has done. Now that's Acharei, and then to catch the wave of holiness, of Kedusha, of energy from heaven, the same energy that is existing around the throne room in heaven, where the four living creatures cry, holy, 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 is the Holy One, God Almighty. The whole earth may it be filled with His glory. And the 24 elders see Him, and they fall before His face, and they throw down their crowns. They say, "Worthy, worthy is He." And then we get to the angels and the cherubim, the seraphim, the songs that are sung around the throne that we read about in the book of Revelation. These are the things that Isaiah could see whenever he saw in his vision of Isaiah 6. This energy that motivates everything in heaven can motivate us also. We can connect. We could connect with that source of energy. Be holy as I am. Holy is this theme of this book. So we're going to be talking about why you need to be holy, when you need to get holy, what you do that causes you to desire to be holy, to get this energy flowing in you. And so we see that this week we have two sub-themes of that major theme of Vayikra, the Be Holy as I Am Holy theme. And the first one is dying to self in all of self's permutations. Self-promotion, self-obsession, self-interest, self-desire, all the things, self-dependence, all the self things that you can imagine. These are the things we must die to. This is the trough. This is going through the Kippur process where we come to our lowest point and He covers us. And then we begin to rise up. The second theme, the sub-theme is living a post-resurrection life. This is the Kedusha side of the two parshas, Kedoshim side of the two parshas. Living a post-resurrection life. Once we've come through the trough of the Acharei times, and now into the day of Yom Kippur times, now living a post-resurrection life. What should our life look like? And not falling back into the practices that let the rogue wave that leads us out to death take us again. And this is the lesson of Parsha Kedoshim. Okay, now I'm talking to you about this seed of Abraham, this great plan of the Holy One to reconnect humanity and all of creation to His plan for restoring, redeeming, reclaiming, returning to shalom, to Edenic bliss. This is the grand plan and how He plans to use the seed of Abraham to do it. Now, He's got a plan and a strategy laid out. He has a protocol laid out for the seed of Abraham to be trained in these disciplines. He's brought us to Sinai to train us in these disciplines of learning what it takes to get back on the harmony trail, get back on the Kedusha trail, get out of the death aspect of it. If you can see what I've been saying about this, the rogue wave, and how it's the rogue wave is something that happens when multiple swells that are unseen under the water begin to come together and and they actually form a big wave that goes the opposite way of the normal flow of the waves. And it's sometimes twice or more times the size of the ordinary waves, because these swells have come up in secret and they've combined and formed a major wave. And this wave is very destructive, but it stands up like a wall of water. And if you remember the story of the wall of water, all of Bnei Israel came through walls of water, standing walls of water at the Sea of Reeds, and we lost ourselves. We died, as it were, in that base of that sea. There were walls of water on either side, but then we came out of the other side. Oh, this is the picture, the Sea of Reeds. The exposure of Parsha Acharei is about us going through the Sea of Reeds and dying in the bottom of that, and the salt walls of water coming over us. And then what happened to the Egyptians was what the result was supposed to be. But we are redeemed. We have been brought forth. We came out of this. We have a post-resurrection life. And what should we do? How should we live as a result of that? So, after going through great lengths to redeem us from bondage to perverse, self-obsessed, ethnocentric, and ideological and institutional mindsets of men, that's what He took us out of. After going to great lengths to redeem us from all those things, the Holy One brought us to Mount Sinai on eagle's wings. This is His part of what He's doing with the seed of Abraham to become the model for all nations to come in the world. And He's using this remote location of Sinai, which is where we've been now for months, as a boot camp, as it were. A boot camp at which He is going to train us, has been training us, will continue to train us in essential covenant disciplines of getting back in harmony. Now, it all goes back to the Avrahamic seed process, and so we go back to the first of the protocols, the first of the covenant disciplines that we had to learn, like Avraham did, is to Shema, the voice of the Holy One. to treasure, to cherish, to value and guard his covenant, and then to build what he told us to build, where he told us to build it, as he told us to build it. That's the shemaring, and asaying covenant discipline. We learned that from Abraham. That's the works of Abraham. If you were the sons of Abraham, Yeshua, the master, taught to the Pharisees, you would be doing the works of Abraham. You'd be shemaring, you'd be shemaring, you'd be asaying. And the second thing he taught Abraham was the covenant discipline of emunah. In English, King James Version calls it faith. Oh, another theological construct. That's not what that is. Emunah is to attach ourselves to the life force and draw life for, and then recycle the life of the life force of the Holy One. Emunah, to trust, and therefore to see the trust begin to open up channels in our life. That allow us to overcome. He said, you have had emunah, Abraham, in my promises, that you've attached yourself to them like an umbilical cord, and you're now receiving the strength of them. Okay, that's the second one. The third of the covenant disciplines he's taught us through Abraham is avodah, service to men, service to others. Service to the Holy One, service to others. And that brings about what's called devakut in Hebrew. It's a unity, it's a unification, it's an intimacy that comes. We feel like we're part of, connected to the Holy One. We're part of, connected to his creation, the universe and its species, and we're part of and connected to mankind as a species. This is devakut. And becomes through avodah. As we serve, we become connected to, we become affectionate toward, and we become feeling a part of something else. If we don't serve, if we don't yield ourselves to serve, we won't do that. Abraham did that, and that's his example. And then he said that he would, of Abraham, he timed the disciplines of Zedakah, or as some may call it, in King James English calls it righteousness. Again, a theological term that has nothing to do with Zedakah. Zedakah means to flow the right way, the way of the gentle flow of creation, the way it was designed to make. And mishpat is the next one, and that's translated justice or judgment in the King James Version. Again, theological, theoretical concepts, abstract ideas, not what the Hebrew is talking about. Mishpat means to do in accordance with what the voice of the Holy One has spoken, to do that which will bring about the harmony in the earth and bring back the gentle flow of the rhythms, as opposed to disturbing them again with this wave of death. Okay, so now we're at Sinai. That's the Abrahamic things. The first 5 of the disciplines were Abrahamic disciplines. Now at Sinai, he's teaching us the process of Kedoshim, of setting apart things, of making them holy, of embracing, absorbing, taking on holiness. So he's taught us about the holy things of Shabbat and his words, his Torah. He's taught us about the tabernacle being holy, and about the priesthood being holy, and about the presentations, the korbanot being holy, and about all this avodah of the tabernacle. He's shown us a microcosm of heaven and showed us how in the heavenly realms the priests, like the angels and the cherubim and the seraphim, and us as the multitudes that are gathered around the throne, we behave as courtiers of a great kingdom. We kadash, we become filled with kedusha, or holiness energy. And today, he's already introduced it, but he's going to talk more about kippuring, the idea, this discipline of kippuring, of understanding we operate under a covering. The covering is not people. The covering is the actual work of the Holy One in our lives. It is like in the Garden of Eden, when he slayed the animal and he cooked the skins of the animal, and he put that garment or that covering on Adam and Hava because he knew they were going to be sent out. He was sending them out into a world that had thorns and thistles, and he wanted them to be prepared and covered and ready to be able to handle. Empowered to be able to handle that world. So it is with his Kippur. Whenever he takes us down, we go through the trough we've been caught up in the death wave, the rogue wave that leads to death. When we've been caught in that, he finds us. He takes us out if we're willing. He covers us, and he prepares us for what's coming next. And now, in the final section of this discussions of covenant disciplines, I say final for now at least, that is ahava. He's going to teach us ahava. Love. The love is the overriding. It just says Shaul of Tarsus said, add to this and add to that and add to this faith and add to faith virtue and all those things, and in them with love. Well, this is what the Holy One is doing with us at Sinai. He is adding this idea of love. So he gives us chapter 19 of Leviticus as we know it. It is the love chapter. It is the one in which you add to all the other things he's taught us thus far. We add love. And then he defines that love in very practical ways. It's not some feeling we have. It is not some sense of emotion that we experience. It is not a sense of human goodness and kindness that we feel. Ahava is structured. It is ordered. It is the gentle waves that he created. It is the way he designed us to be and designed our spirits to flow. It is what comes out of our neshama, about our awakened, instructed, empowered spirit within us, not out of our flesh, and not out of our pseudo-intellect or will or mind or emotions or nephesh. What he does is empower our spirits to love the way he loves, and to see things and put things in order the way they should be, not to feel like we need to manipulate and control things our way, according to our plan. So we're going to talk about that. Remember, this is all part, though, of the Kedusha discourse, the great Kedusha discourse. When he's teaching us and training us how to take on and embrace and then exude the transformative energy that radiates from his manifest presence. His presence changes everything. It raises the bar. It gets us ready for our real life mission. Let's now stop and have our call to worship. Let's sing our Baruch Hu, the blessing, before reading from the Torah. Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bakar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah. And now open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things from your Torah. For we are but strangers in the earth, so do not hide your commandments from us. Near the end of last week's Parsha, Metzorah, the final portion that we read last week, at the conclusion of all the cleansing and restoration protocols that he taught us, particularly with the garden at the end toward a woman with an issue of blood. He's always about cleansing. He's always about restoration. He's always about protocol. He's always about finding us in the trough, in the lowest place, where the swell, the rogue wave that causes and carries us out to death, away from the structure of the normal gentle seas of life. That is where he finds us, and that is where he covers us. And that is what he talked about at the end of Parsha Metzorah. He said, in this manner, here he gives them his instructions. In this manner, you two are to separate Bnei Israel, to Nazar, to set apart Bnei Israel from its uncleanness, from its tumah, from its destabilizing corruption that leads to disintegration and conflict of will and mind and loyalty and eventually death. You are to separate Bnei Israel from its uncleanness, from its tumah, lest they die, lest the rogue wave carry it away to its ultimate conclusion in their uncleanness, in their tumah, because they introduce tumah into my Mishkan, into my dwelling place that is among them. This is the process. Now if we're going to be covered, if we're going to be kippured, if we're going to be brought out of the wave, if we're going to come through the sea of reeds, then how should we live? Because we should not reintroduce the tumah of Egypt or the tumah of any other nation or any other culture or any other ethnicity or any other institutional mindset into this new saved remnant post-resurrection life. So, he says, lest they die in their uncleanness when they introduce tumah back into my Mishkan that is among them. Wow, we don't want to do that. Now, the opening lines of Acharei Mot of this week's Parsha, first Parsha, are Vayadaber Adonai el Moshe, and the Holy One spoke to Moshe. Acharei Mot Shnei b'nei Aaron. Let me get my glasses. Acharei Mot Shnei b'nei Aaron, after the deaths, after the wave hit Aaron's two sons, Bekorvatam lifne Adonai vayamuto, who just died when they made an approach to the presence of the Holy One. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, the Holy One spoke to Moshe, saying, Daber el Aaron, ve'al yavo bechol el HaKodesh. El HaKodesh. Tell Aaron he is not to go just at any time, in any way, into the holy place. And he goes on, I'll just read in English. Inside the veil, he goes, before the mercy seat of the ark, lest he die. If he goes anytime he wants, any way he wants, he will get caught up in the introduce the tuma back in, and he will be caught up in the rogue wave that leads outward, away from the rhythms and into the death spiral. Lest you understand, he wants to go forward. For I, he says, will appear in the cloud above the mercy seat. The Holy One will indeed engage with his creation if we do not pollute the environment, if we don't put debris all over the landing strip where he can't land the plane without causing damage and hardship. This is the idea. I will appear in the cloud above the mercy. This is my promise. I will engage with my creation and with my people. I will be here to energize and empower and assist my people to do what they're called to do. But we cannot reintroduce Tuma. We cannot reintroduce that back into the holy things. If we're going to live a post-resurrection life, we need to do it free of the Tuma, of the uncleanness, of the other things that lead to death, that are part of the rogue wave that leads to death. And so the Holy One continues, Aharon's entry into the holy place is to be with the blood of a young bull, as a chatat, as that which covers and us from the hole in our soul that teaches us, says that we do not want to follow the words of the living God, the words of his instruction. We don't consider his will and his words to be the most benevolent, most intelligent way of life. So Aaron's entry is to be under a covering with the blood of the bull, young bull as a hatat, and of a ram as a olah, as a surrender of the will, as a reaching to the place at the bottom of the trough where we practice our death. We rehearse that we don't deserve to live, and we thank the Holy One for what he's done, and we rise up again. This is the Yom Kippur process. The Holy One says, and continues that Aaron is to put on the holy linen tunic and the linen trousers on his body, and he's to be girded with a linen sash. Oh, we're going to get this picture of being covered, of being kippured with the linen. And with a linen turban he is to be attired. These are the holy garments. This is the kippur. And this shall be a statute forever in the 7th month, on the 10th month of the... So we have the things that happen. We don't even see what Aaron's doing, what the high priest is doing. This is the Yom Kippur liturgy. He takes things and does things. We have to trust it's being done. And what is our part? This shall be a statute for you forever. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you are to afflict your souls. This is Yom Kippur, right? On the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you are to afflict your souls. We call it fasting. You are to do no work at all, whether you are a native of the country or whether you are a stranger who dwells among the natives of the country. Because on that day, we're trusting something's happening outside of our vision. On our day, something's happening in the spiritual realm. Something happens in the great courts of the king. The priest will make kippur for you. The priest will make a covering for you to cleanse you, to tahar you, to bring you back in rhythm and with the gentle flow of the created order and plan, in order that you may be tahor, clean, holy, flowing in gentleness, flowing in righteousness from all your sins before the face and the presence of the Holy One. All right. That's the beginning portion of Acharei. We see another beginning in Kedoshim, chapters 19 and 20, very shortly thereafter. Let's talk first about Acharei. It's a Hebrew phrase. That's what we call the name of the parsha, but it comes from those first opening words. After the death, if we read it in English, after the death of Nadab and Abihu, Navar and the sons. But there's a secret in the Hebrew beyond after the death. Acharei means after or following or in the wake of or in the aftermath or in the fallout of something. So something has happened, something has gone, and now it's like a wave is coming. There's a wake, and in the wake of that wave, there's a wash, there's a debris, there's shell. Everything comes in on the wave of the wake. So after the wake has hit, in the aftermath of this great wave, of the rogue wave that's hit, Mot. The wave is of Mot. Mot, Mim, Vav, Tav in Hebrew. Mim, the sign, the imagery, the illustration, the picture of a wave flowing. The Vav, the idea of a man, that which nails and that which connects, and then the idea to the end, to the termination. The Tav, the culmination, the termination. So the wave carries the man and nails him to the termination process. This is the rogue wave. After Acharei Mot has so many spiritual meanings beyond after the death of Nadav and Abihu, but yet it does refer to that scenario because they were caught up in the rogue wave. They were the ones who were shown what happens to when the rogue wave hits you and you do not escape. When you try to bring the Tamei, you bring the Zara, the foreign, into the realm of the holy. Well, that rogue wave hit them. The rogue wave was sourced in a combination of swells, picked them up, overwhelmed them, carried them to their end point of death. That's the Acharei Mot. But for us, beloved, we still exist. Nadav and Abihu have been taken out of the camp and their bodies disintegrated. But not us. We live. We have overcome the difficulty. We have survived the wave. Death, the rogue wave, has lost its sting. We have been rescued, redeemed, saved from it by the Holy One's strong right hand. Like happened at the Sea of Reeds, it has happened again. With that wave was water, this wave is fire. And both of them came, but we have been redeemed from both. Death has lost its sting. We have overcome. We have survived the wave. We are back to a place. So what kind of manner of life should we live now? That's our challenge. Mot, the rogue wave that carries a person out, away from its moorings, away from the gentle flow and the rhythm and the flotation and the buoyancy that is ordained for us to live upon the matters of this world, carried us out and led us to our dying and to our death. Rogue waves. Do you understand that the world is full of rogue waves now? And these swells are sometimes under the surface, and they capture and connect with one another from time to time. And that rogue wave comes out and causes great destruction, destabilization, and death. The rogue wave, the product of increasing swells that come out of nowhere, seemingly. And then they come from directions that are not of the prevailing gentle flow. A rogue wave doesn't come from the same place the rest of the wave comes from. It comes out goes in a different direction. And they look like walls of water. They're deep-sided with deep troughs. Now, what are the swells? What are the swells that are combining to come together to form the rogue wave, to give it strength and to cause it to do what it does, to give it the power to do what it is? What are the swells of life, of this world that happen, that counteract and break the balance and break the harmony of God's creation, the way He designed it, and man's life the way He designed it to be? The wave of death, the Mut, the rogue wave, starts with what in Hebrew is called Ra. Self-interest, self-will, self-determination, self-obsession, self-promotion. In Hebrew, English, it's often called evil. Again, an abstract theory, an abstract concept that does not reflect anything substantive. Ra is all about when man tries to do it man's way, according to man's feelings, or man's theories, or man's ideas, or man's concepts, or man's ideology, or man's political theories. When man tries to do it man's way, it is Ra. That is a swell that seems to flow at all times. There's always that swell, that part of the swell is always part of the ocean. We always see people, we're always tempted in ourselves to try to do things our way, the way we think would promote our interest. What's in it for us process. What do I want? What do I like? Those are the things that cause Ra. That's that swell. Now that swell by itself is dangerous, but boy, when you connect it with some of the other swells that are out there, the negative swells, the rogue wave swells, you find, what's the next one? profane things, kol things, things that are not tempered by the holy. We are supposed to separate the holy from the profane, the holy from the common. And so if we allow ourselves to be caught up in the profane language, profane ideas, profane conversations, profane actions, common things, if we begin to absorb the things of the world as opposed to tempering and measuring them against the holiness and calming them down with the holiness things of the Sabbath and the Torah and the meditations on the tabernacle. These are the things that bring holiness back into it and restore the balance. But if it's uncontrolled, we have the swell of ra and evil and the swell of profanity and the chol in Hebrew. Now, that's not all. There's another swell that seems to want to come and combine. They have the ra swell. We have the chol swell. Now we have the uncleanness, the tumas swell. That which causes destabilization. That which causes conflicting loyalties, conflicting priorities, the uncleanness, the things that cause disintegration, the things that dispose of, destroy, the things that clean up, the things that are about death and garbage. That's the idea of that. And then we have the issue of zara'at, we have the issue of sin or leprosy, that's called. We have the issue of sin, which is saying we don't want to follow the will and the words and the instructions of life of the Holy One. And we get rebellion. We get the idea of we'll want to do whatever the Holy One says not to do, we want to do. Whatever the Holy One says not to do, we want to do. Whatever we say we want to not do. This is the rebellion. The concept of morad. And then we have these swells begin to come together, and as we accumulate and as we allow them to build in their intensity, when they come together, we are in the wave of death. But there's an antidote for each one. For the Ra, there is Tov. There is that which the Holy One has put on earth to be Tov. It's the light. It's all the things he said are good. All the things, and these are fountains of goodness that begin to temper back and pull back the self-will. You see goodness, you're not so caught up in yourself. You see the beauty and the majesty of goodness of our King and his ways. You begin to temper back the self-determination and self-interest. So then we have the counterbalance or the antidote to profane things, to the kol, and that's the Kedusha. That's the holy things of the King, of the Creator. It starts with the Sabbath and goes through all of his moedim, his appointed times. Goes through his Torah, includes his Torah and the meditations on the tabernacle and the protocols of the tabernacle and how he gives covering and Kippur. Meditate all about the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, and upon the Messiah, the Holy Messiah. These are the things that are holy, and we focus on them as they begin to take our mind off of the things that are profane, the profane language, the profane behaviors, the profane thoughts, the profane conduct, all of that thing. Those seems inconsistent, incongruent with the holiness, the Kedusha that we see among the holy things of our King. And then the issue of Tumah. We have a counterbalance to the uncleanness, to the disintegration, to the conflicting loyalties. We have the wholeness factor. We have the tahara. The idea that the Holy One presents his way is so superior to anything else. And so when his word is spoken and his will is stated and his ways are presented, that takes away our desire for the uncleanness. We have these, how we keep the balance, how we keep the delicate balance and the harmony in the earth. That's our job once we have been redeemed from the swell. Once we have been pulled out and have lived through and survived the low place, the trough of the wave of death, the mot. Then once that has happened, when the rogue wave is passed, we begin to introduce the wave of life. Chai, living the wave of life. Yeshua taught it this way. I have come, and this is what we're all to do. I have come that you may have life. Chai. And have it more abundantly. In other words, that it continues to increase in its goodness, in its holiness, in its wholeness, in its beauty, in its righteousness, in its perfection. That is the idea of what he's doing. Now, the secret of abundant life and wholeness that he wants us to have, the secret to restoring harmony, we add to shemaing and loving we add to shemaing, treasuring, cherishing, emunah. We add ahav. We have love. That's the idea of the second part of the sections of the Torah this week, Kedoshim, that we add love. The life-giving, nurturing wave of love. This is the ultimate antidote to the poison of the rogue wave of death. Nurturing wave of love. Now, the thing is, love is defined by the Holy One in a great way, not some emotion or affection like the English Western world would have you believe. Love, ahav in Hebrew, is a resonance with the order and structure of the Holy One's plan. For all things, for all places, for all people, for things as they are to take place on the earth. They return to that gentle flow, the rhythm of heaven, the frequency of heaven. So it starts, he says, I want to give you the very different elements, 14 or 15 elements basically, that are all referenced in the love chapter, chapter 19 of Leviticus. And it begins with embracing the fear of mother and father. Oh, the family unit, the order and structure of the universe. Love requires us to get back to the basics of life on earth, father and mother. And it says fear them here. Other places it says honor them. But here it says fear. Acharei, it means to see them for who they are. They are the sources of life. Without them, we would not be alive. It's not about whether we like their behavior or we even know them well. They have abandoned us. The idea is they gave us the seed. We are of their chromosomes and of their genes. We would not exist and we would not be as we are but for our mother and our father. We see them. Acharei means to see and therefore to respond appropriately to who they are. So we see them, we honor, then respect and revere, but we fear in that way. Not fear of they're going to hurt us. Fear in the sense that we recognize their greatness of mother and father. Oh, how are we doing on that? That's, before you get into the other issues of love, do you love? You must respect and honor and fear your mother and your father, or else you cannot do the rest of the love. The love of the Spirit starts with each individual respecting, loving, reverently fearing his mother and his father, recognizing them for what they've done. The second thing is getting into and flowing in the Sabbath rhythms. The Holy One's rhythms relate very importantly, very critically to the Sabbath, the 7 days, and then the other days that he calls Sabbaths from the Moedim, from the festival. This is how he regulates his creation. This is how he regulates the created order in mankind. It's through the patterns of his Sabbaths. This is not some religious experience we do. This is not some way in which we plan to earn favor. This is how we get in touch and rhythm with who he is. We're flowing in rhythm with the Sabbath. It's rhythms. The third thing he talks about in chapter 19 is turning away from and rejecting cultural, ethnic idols. And I will go further to say idols. I think we've got that wrong idea. I will call it ideals. The idea that whatever the culture that we're in, the ethnicity we come from or that we admire, or the institutions that we associate with, whatever they idolize, whatever they idealize, those things are the things that will bring in the swells of Ra, of Kol, of profanity, of tumah, of uncleanness, of conflicted loyalties. So we turn away, reject. This is part of life. If we don't do this, we're going to have corrupted love. The love will be corrupted by cultural, ethnic, national, institutional ideals. And that will be a death knell. That will cause the swells to keep growing for the rogue wave to take us away again, take all those that we touch away. We're supposed to be restoring harmony to the world. And instead we'll bring in the ethnic wars that create the swells, and the ethnic ideals and ideas that create the swells that let the rogue wave take its shape. The fourth thing, after embracing the fear of our mother and father, after getting and flowing in rhythm with the Sabbath rhythms, after turning away from and rejecting the cultural, ethnic, and national and institutional ideals, ideas, and idols, is not letting service or worship, the avodah that we do for God and mankind, become superficial, become showy, become a social thing, or become exaggerated in any way. Yeshua had a lot to say about this in chapter 6 of Matthew in his Sermon on the Mount. But the idea here in Torah is we do it the way he says it. Don't try to hype it. Don't try to hype worship, because that tells the world you're a showman. You're not a model. Now, the fifth thing is failing to take responsibility, or actually the fifth thing for the secret of abundant life is taking responsibility for helping the poor, for seeing them in their need and taking the poor. And then he talks about leaving the corner of the field for the poor. He talks about leaving the gleanings of the field for the poor. The idea is having an awareness of the needs and taking some level of responsibility for helping the poor get out of their poverty and to be fed and clothed. This is a part of love. And we see, this is the fifth part of love. There's 14 or 15. The sixth thing is interacting responsibly with the deaf and with the blind, with those who are disabled, with those who can't, we could abuse if we wish to, but they're not doing so. Interacting responsibly with the deaf and the blind, and also in multiple levels, at multiple ways with our neighbor. So he's talking about the deaf and the blind, or the disabled. The neighbor, those who share the pasture with us, those who we walk in and have meals with, and those who that feed off the same economy we feed off of. These are our neighbor. And then also, not just the deaf and the blind, not just the foreigner, but we have rules of engagement with also the foreigners in our midst. And we follow the king's instructions as to how to deal with the deaf and blind and how not to deal with them, how to deal with our neighbor and how not to deal with him, how to deal with the foreigners in our midst and how not to deal with them. This is critical to the love chapter. The idea of adding ahava to shemayim, to emunah, to faith, is to be able to understand this requires us to have kingdom-oriented relationships, ordered relationships with the deaf and the blind, the neighbor, the foreigner in our midst. The seventh of these secrets to abundant life and wholeness that are supposed to build out in Leviticus 19 is being unbiased, honest, and upright in marketplace dealings and in policy and decision-making and interacting with other people, forming opinions about other people. This is critical. We'll talk about weights and scales and measures and all sorts of things, and the idea of not holding a grudge or not taking vengeance or not being biased toward one or the other, the poor, any social class or ethnicity, not doing that. Those are the things we're talking about here. This is a critical facet of kingdom love, of ahav, of adding this to be the ultimate antidote to the rogue way of death. The eighth thing is dealing calmly and responsibly with offenses and things that challenge us, people that challenge us. Not overreacting, not flowing out of emotion, not acting out of grudges, or to respond and deal calmly with offenses and aggravations and irritations in life. Those are normal things. These things must come. The issue is how we'll respond. Love requires us to be patient and calm and intentional with regard to the way we handle offenses, and not carry grudges and sulk and be angry. The ninth aspect of the secrets of ahava is to respect and honor betrothal and marriage. We're not to deal with people saying, you may be betrothed, you may be engaged to this person, but I want you. Or you may be married to this person, but I still lust after you. These respect betrothal. Respect marriage, respect covenant. This is a key factor of love, of kingdom love, that ahava, that becomes the antidote for and dispels the swells of the rogue wave of death. 10th thing is to honor the Holy One in regard to species. It can start a lot about the fruit trees and about the idea of not just taking what we can get, but actually honoring the Holy One with the fruit of the tree. It goes to all the species, not mixing things that He is, in His order, in His structure, in His wisdom, He has decided to be separate. Wool and linen garments, we should not mix the two. He says, why? Because you need to understand that I have set things up in a certain order. And to respect my order, you do not mix the things that I have told you not to mix. And the same thing with regard to plowing or putting under a yoke animals of different species. Look, He said, I designed things a certain way. Don't think you're smarter than I am and try to do things that mix those things together. And then turning away from and rejecting occult practices. Everything that has to do with getting wisdom or getting insight or getting a manipulative power from some source, and as opposed to doing the will of the Holy One. And then 12, respecting the way the Holy One designed our own bodies and our hair. Now this is one that if you aren't at peace with who he created you to be, if you don't accept yourself and your skin and your hair the way he created it, and you'll try to change it, you'll put tattoos and piercings and carved designs in your hair and your skin, you'll do things to try to change yourself, and that is the opposite of love, and that will let you get caught up again in the swell, bring the uncleanness of the world's ways and world's thoughts and world's ideas and world's value system into the holy realm. So those are the 12th way, is respecting the way the Holy One designed your body and your hair and that of others. And then 13 is protecting your daughters, all the young women of your culture's virtue and virginity, not prostituting them, not putting them out there and for the highest bidder, not trafficking them. And I mean, I realize most of us wouldn't do that, but when you put them in clothing that is seductive, that is revealing, when you encourage them to engage in romantic behaviors that they're not ready for in their body, this is the idea of learning that daughters need to be specially treasured and cared for and watched over and encouraged and nurtured, as opposed to promoted and sold and pushed out on the world. Now, the 14th thing is to behave respectfully toward one's elders. These are the secrets of abundant life. These are the secrets of high. These are the secrets the Holy One's given us in chapter 19 of the love that breaks the barrier, the bonds of the rogue wave of death. Now we have been redeemed. We have been rescued from the wave. We have gone through the trough and the lowest place. He has put a covering over us. We have sustained the fact that we deserve to die, but we have been saved and redeemed and restored, and brought back to life, post-resurrection life anyway. How should we live? Oh, beloved, let us live the abundant life. Let us live the way the Holy One designed. Let us take on the Kedoshim, the holiness, the wave of life. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We'll see you next week.